Hello and welcome to the Dose of Benny podcast. Look, today we're going to be covering off all the small adjustments I've made heading into my 100 miler, which is less than 7 days away now. Sounds scary to say, but just the little things that have helped make things a bit more economical, make me feel just more confident and comfortable during my long runs and stuff like that, as well as dealing with the taper tantrums. Like I'm in the throes of that right now. All those niggles that start appearing, the voice in your head, am I ready for this? Just dealing with those and little strategies that I've been implementing, some new, some not so new. But first I just wanted to just discuss and thank people for engaging on one of the posts about my topic last week, talking about dealing with pain during an ultra and giving it a name. So I affectionately called him Brucey, and people resonated a lot. For some, it was new information. So I'm glad that it was providing value for a lot of the audience, the fellow ultra runners and new ultra runners. Again, building the sport, growing the sport is something that I want to be actively a part of. So to contribute to how people are preparing is really cool. There was a few people that reached out that are literally going to be racing right now, from like 70 milers to their first backyard. So that was really, really cool to be engaging with you guys in that way. And then also some people who had actually been using the voice strategy as well. So if you did miss it, I was literally talking about, experiencing pain during a race and giving that pain a name and basically just separating myself from the pain. So othering it, and just learning to accept it rather than try and resist it. I found that to be quite a useful strategy to dealing with pain. But another interesting question that came up that I did want to address on the potty as well was, how do you differentiate between like what's a niggle versus something that could be like a potential serious injury? And honestly, that is a really difficult question to answer on behalf of more than just myself. It ultimately comes down to, one, your pain tolerance, but more or less, the answer lies in your morals and values. What does this race mean to you? What does running mean to you? What does training mean to you? So if you're not willing to push the edge based on the result that you want for that given race, like, is this the thing that you want to die on, that this is your experience and whatever happens after that, you can live without? And that might mean not being able to run for a while, like we're talking months, then you'll know the difference. But if that already seems like confrontational to you, you'll know pretty quickly what pain you do and don't want to put up with. And honestly, it's not always a bad thing. Like, if you DNF'd and pulled out of a race because of some sort of repetitive stress injury, maybe your knee was playing up, just really sharp pains, wouldn't go away, was continuing to get worse, and then you DNF'd and you found within a couple of days it completely went away and you're really disappointed in yourself, I wouldn't be beating yourself up too much. It's sort of actually just letting you peep underneath the curtain about what pain is, and the body's, more so the mind, and it telling you to just get the fuck out of this situation, how much it is craving comfort. So this is where the conversation gets tricky, and I don't want to go speaking on behalf of other people, because even some of the pain that I experienced during my first 100 miler, so I went through a shoe change. It was horrible. Pretty quickly we were into a lot of the steeper, more undulating terrain throughout the race, and I couldn't descend properly. Like, everything in my knee was catching. My ITB was just on fire. And I had to make my way to our next designated aid station, get back in the other shoes, got some soft tissue treatment, and it still took probably another, I think it was about 15 kilometers of climbing before it actually started to settle. And thankfully I was able to descend off that pretty well pain-free. I got back into a rhythm. And again, was it, like, when I say pain-free, is that back to a zero to where I started? Fuck no. Like, we're running 100 miles. Things get progressively worse. And something that sits at like maybe a 1 or a 2 can quickly escalate to a 4 or 5 plus perceived pain at scale when you've just been on your feet for that long. And sometimes when you need that break, that is the worst time. I remember when I laid down for I think it was like a 9-minute nap or something before I took off. That was the only time I stopped during my first 100 mile. Getting up and going again was the hardest. Like some of the groans, the noises that were coming out of me, it was guttural. You know what I mean? And you're like shivering, your body's going into shock. It's like, what the fuck are we doing right now? But then you get going, and that's where you experience these second wins. So I guess my general advice would be, like when we're talking about 100 miles, giving something 30 to 60 minutes to see how it progresses. You just don't know when you're going to come out of the bottom of a low. That's the hard part. And sometimes they'll come early, sometimes they'll come late. For me, I still think I'm yet to really experience a true low. Like, yes, I'm sure there's a bit of, I guess, trauma, for lack of a better word. I hate using that word in this context, that you're going through, that your body then just dissipates. It doesn't want to hold on to as a memory. And I'm still excited to go do this 100 mile. And I'm sure I'm going to get to a certain point during the race and be like, fuck, I forgot. But now it's all coming back to me. I remember how much this sucked. But again, like, you're just building on experience and experience and experience. So when it comes to pain, I can't, unfortunately, I wish there was a one size fits all approach to dealing with pain. And I wish that I could tell you that everything was going to be okay after the race and you're not going to need all this recovery. It may spawn into something, and something that you may pull out that wasn't that bad actually lingers around longer than you thought it would as well. Like, it's just so tricky. So many factors go into why we get injured, what type of injury it is, where it is, how much experience you have leading into it. It's so multifaceted. It gets really, really tricky. But yeah, again, thanks for everyone who engaged on that. That was really fun. I enjoy going back and forth with people and just being supportive with the community. That was really, really cool. But another funny story that sort of I wanted to make sure I shared today. So it's Sunday today. I'm recording this a little bit earlier than usual, just to make sure that, again, reducing stress in the taper, that I'm not scrambling to get this out before we have to catch a flight on Tuesday morning with the fam. But just how much life has changed, and how I'm sure it's changed for a lot of you guys, whether you're married, have young kids, older kids, and life continually changes. But the example I wanted to share this morning, I was out running, just local a road run, and I was heading down the street. Not far from where we live is like a leagues club and train stations, stuff like that. And I was coming up past this young fella. He was walking down towards me, and I said, "Morning, mate." And he just laughed, this giddy laugh. And then it was like, "Morning." You could tell he was just walking home. This was the end of his night. This was not good morning for him. This was good night. And it just reminded me of being in his position, seeing those people starting their day while you're still finishing yours from the night before, but just how long it's been, or at least how long it feels since it's been. That's my life. You know, going out late with mates, getting drunk, having a good time, making all those mistakes you make as a teenager and young adult. But then also it just made me reflect on the time in life that I'm experiencing right now. You know, my kids are young, they're 4 and 2. We're getting ready to transition our eldest son to prep for the first time. I'm running these ultras, like there's a lot going on, and I don't want to wish this time away either, because like I'm sure I'll continually come back to it upon in reflection is I just don't know how many of these I'm going to do, like whether that's just through interest, through my body holding up. Like, I can't take anything for granted. I'm running these ultras on a 15-year-old reconstructed ankle. Like, I've got titanium rods and screws in there. Like, the fact that I've been able to accomplish what I've accomplished, I'm already so grateful for. And it's definitely not something I ever saw on the cards when I was coming out of surgery with those types of injuries, coming from a rugby league background. So then to transition and be able to squat, you know, over 200 kilos, run 100 miles, like all these things I've still been able to do with my body, despite it failing me on so many occasions. I don't ever want to let go of the fact that these are the times that I'm grateful for, the ones that I'm in right now, and I'm making memories as we speak. And I just can't wait to go and put yourself, I think that's the beauty of an ultra, is each one you walk away with its own unique story. Mainly because you're going to be running these at like different times in the year. So there's conditions, there's distances, there's circumstances that you were training through. It's all just so unique. And that's what I love. And again, not to say that that's unique to ultra marathons, but I think that when you do just go through these like extended periods of like condensed suffering and, just being really uncomfortable, but then having these breakthroughs of just, I don't know, like ecstasy. I hate to be cliche and that runner's high bullshit, but it is just so true. Like you do inevitably have those times. And sometimes, thankfully, I haven't really experienced it where it's just like constant L's the whole way. So hopefully that's not what's ahead of me. I'm trying not to look too much at the weather forecast. It's not exciting me a whole bunch over in Western Australia at the moment. But again, we can only control what we can control. But now, I just wanted to dive into what the crux of this podcast is going to be, and it's about gear and some of the adjustments I've made. And the one that I wanted to talk about first was a racing belt. For some of you that maybe in like the Northern Hemisphere, I'm sure it's a lot more normalized because for a lot of the races, your aid stations are a lot more available. And I just think the general rules of, you need to look after yourself, like it's your own personal responsibility, is a lot more of a Northern Hemisphere thing. Whereas, I don't know, down here in Australia, I'm not sure what it's like in New Zealand. I'm assuming it's probably similar, but just the amount of like mandatory gear that you constantly need to be carrying, water you need to be carrying, like water carrying capacity. Thankfully, this is probably one of the lighter ones. Like it's only a 1.5 liter carrying capacity that is mandatory for me for this 100 miler, which is pretty good. But I found a race belt just from comfortability standpoint, particularly in a 50. So I ran my 50K in this guy. So this is a naked running belt. I've worn this just about every day, even for shorter runs. I'll take it because I'm real big on hydration, especially in Australian summers here. I haven't been wearing it too much this week because obviously the runs are like less than an hour. Haven't really been needing to take on too much water. But yeah, this thing's been bashed is basically what I'm trying to get across. And it's only just really starting to show some signs of wear. There's a few holes peeking through, but honestly, that's mainly just from like the corners of like this reusable pouch that I use. I create my own gels during training a lot of the time, just so I'm not spending a fortune on like $4 to $5 gels every weekend, especially on my long runs. And yeah, sometimes just running around and shaking it sort of just cuts little holes in them. But yeah, I can't speak highly enough of how comfy these things are. I think just not having to wear the vest as well reduces like how much I sweat, just holding that heat in. But the biggest thing, and again, this may just be personal preference. Some people may not care or really notice, but I find having the 500ml soft flasks on the front, it just kills my running economy. I notice how much my heart rate spikes, how sore my neck gets when I'm doing like long runs in prep for these races. And I think it's just that postural load, just slowly pulling me forward. I like to wear things generally quite tight. I'll crank them down. So I think it just compresses everything a lot. And another benefit that, again, this may just be personal, that I enjoy, I find the fast release valves, so that you drink from on the soft flasks, so much better than sucking from the straw of the Camelback. I don't know what it is, but I can always just I think it's just being able to physically squeeze the soft flask a little bit as well to increase that flow. I just find I'm so much better at keeping on top of my hydration when I'm using those soft flasks. So for the first time, and I actually got this off Killian Korth, who placed second at the Cocodona 250 a couple of weeks ago. It's funny how you see some things and you're like, oh, of course. But it's almost like you just need someone else out there to basically like give you permission to do something. And he doesn't use a bladder. He just packs his, even when he's wearing a vest, which I will be for the 100 mile, even when he's wearing his vest, he'll just pack a couple in the back and then he still wears a race belt as well. So that's what I'll be doing. I was always going to wear the race belt because I didn't want to wear the soft flasks on the front. But yeah, I'm going to be just jamming a few extras on the longer stints between aid stations in my pack on the back as well. So if you found that you feel a little bit uncomfortable with holding those flasks on the front, I highly recommend just trying a race belt. It's nice and comfy. The carrying capacity of a lot of these now, not to mention if you get a decent pair of race tights, a lot of them have got like built-in pockets now, so you could stuff your extra gel so it's not super, super crowded. But yeah, again, I can't speak highly enough of the Naked race belt. So in here, I'll fit like a liter of water, a full pack of gels that will get me through an entire long run up to like 3 to 4 hours. I'll have my phone in there, my car keys. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, like caffeine. I generally take like a little shot of coffee out with me. Yeah, I've taken so much stuff just in that. So that can literally get me around for hours, and I don't need the big pack, the big vest that's weighing me down, feels restrictive, I'm sweating more, changes my posture and my running gait. So I've found that's really, really helpful. Next, I wanted to talk about those taper tantrums and some of the things that I think that you can be doing just to help ease things. So why, I guess first, like why are we tapering? So it's about the supercompensation theory. You want to put your body under a heap amount of stress. That's what peak weeks are for. And then we use the taper as a period of time to recover and absorb that training stimulus so that we can then go and perform harder and faster than if we continued on like a linear or even obviously progressing even further past the peak. But generally your peak, you're basically trying to overtrain somewhat and then use the recovery period to absorb those physiological adaptations that style of training should be giving you. So if you get your peak right, you get your taper right, you should be in for a really good race performance. As far as the physical side of things, obviously we've already spoken about the mental side of things, and that's the beauty of ultras. You can get all of that right, and there's still a part of it that it doesn't really matter. It's quite negligible. So what I've been trialing this taper is not taking out quite as much volume in the last couple of weeks. And typically I would actually have a few rest days as well. But now I'm finding I'm just adding in more frequency. So today I would usually rest on a Sunday, and I've just got 7Ks under my belt. And then, you know, I'll just do a bit of light speed work tomorrow at the track. And then I've got like an incline treadmill session just to get a little bit of vert, reduce the impact. And then I'll get like a couple of shakeout runs once I'm over in WA. Whereas typically I would probably have like maybe 2 to 3 rest days in that final week leading into the race. Again, I don't have a whole heap of 100-mile experience to know how well this is going to work. But also, I think I'm a more economical runner than what I was previously, where I was happy to sort of power hike a lot more during that first experience and just get a completion. Whereas I'm going to be pushing the limit a little bit harder here. I'm more confident in my body. I've ran my fastest 50K this year. A lot of my speed is as good as it's been, particularly being even heavier. So I haven't weighed myself recently, actually, I should, but up until about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was 3 kilos heavier than what I ran my first 100 miles. So sitting at like 87. And I'm holding that well. My speed's good. My Z1, Z2 heart rate is as low as it's ever been relative to the speeds that I'm running. So I'm really looking for that little edge to make sure that I'm keeping the volume up without sort of just dropping it all out at once. So that's sort of my first tip, is trial just breaking up that volume across days rather than just having multiple rest days. So you're thinking it more as like active recovery, really. And then the second tip that I'll give you is trialing passive heat. If you're not doing this in your training at the moment, I think it's still valid to include it in your taper, and it's something I've done. Having a young family, trying to cram in training where you can, sitting in a sauna or a hot tub for 30 to 45 minutes, even a few times a week, is actually a stretch. I'd rather just use it running, particularly because I'm quite low volume anyway. I'd rather just top it up that way. But in this taper, I've got the luxury of the gym that I coach out of, Strength Sanctuary here in Stafford in Brisbane, that we have hot tubs, saunas, ice bars. We got that recovery section. And yeah, I've just been doing a soak in the hot tub. It sits between 40 and 43 degrees in there for 30 to 45 minutes. And what that is aiming to do is just maintain that blood volume, because when you decrease your training volume too much, you can have a reduction in blood volume, and that can just start to throw things out a little bit. So not to get you in this like overwhelmed state if you haven't followed this before, it's definitely for like the level that we run at, it's probably only shifting the needle marginally, but it's something that I'm willing to play with, more so to deal with the emotional stress. So that's what I want to talk about next, is doing those things to ensure that the emotional load is reducing as well. So making sure that, if you have to travel for your race, that work is sorted. So all my clients are all looked after. The programs are already written. I've even looked the week that I return, programs that were due then. I've touched base with clients, making sure that at least that first week of any new programs that needed to be written are in place, so that I'm not stressing either side, because the recovery after the race is just as important as feeling like you're firing on all cylinders heading into the race. So once you've got those work stresses compressed, it's like, okay, now how do I maximize my sleep? I'm blessed. I've got an amazing wife. You're going to hear me say that so much. And it's not me sucking up her ass, although it doesn't hurt. But she is just such a great supporter of me and what I do in this space, not only as a competitor, but also as a coach. And when I have to travel for races, she's supportive of that as well, but helping me sleep. So she goes and sleeps with our daughter, who still loves crawling into bed most nights with us, just so that I'm not getting this unbroken sleep. So she's been doing that the last sort of 2 weeks leading into the race. Not every night, but nights, after maybe some heavier training and stuff like that, or if we've had a couple of rough nights with our daughter, then yeah, she's like, you just get some sleep. And it's made such a difference. I had a really good sleep last night and felt really nice on just a 40. It's so funny how good a 40-minute run can feel when that's all it is, when it doesn't need to be any longer. As much as we love the suffering of an ultra, it is nice to just do it. I can't remember the last time I've run as short as 40 minutes. So yeah, it was nice to enjoy that side of things before you go into the suffer fest. So it's there that the little tips that I'm offering up is making sure you're reducing those stresses around work. So it's not just training. So don't go dropping off your training volume too aggressively. You definitely don't want to be sitting like well below like 50% or anything like that. I think you can just keep moving, and also still exposing yourself to some speed work. You might have heard me say that earlier as well. Like, I'm going to the track tomorrow and I'm less than a week out. Again, it's not a VO2 session, but it's still well above race pace. And as long as you're using that as your guide above race pace, you'll be totally fine. Look, I think I'm just going to leave it there today, guys. A nice short, sharp one. I hope there was still some punchy quality there for you. As always, leave any comments that you have, race experiences, questions you have following up to some of the things I've spoken about. Otherwise, the next time you'll be seeing me here, I hopefully will have got another 100-mile race under my belt, which is crazy to think that it's that close again. I'm super lucky again with those taper tantrums that I've got a holiday planned, so I actually have some touristy stuff a couple of days beforehand. So I'm really looking forward to leaning into that and having some fun with the family and getting in there, checking out the Margaret River region. I should be able to get a shakeout run at the start of the course, just to help ease those nerves. So I hope, if you're racing this weekend, best of luck. Hope it all goes really well. Please share how it goes. But then also, I'll be speaking about a number of races. Dead Cow Gully is running at the moment. I won't make any comment on it because it's kind of pointless right now. So maybe as part of my race recap, I'll delve into that and any other sort of race news that's relevant at the time. So thank you again so much for tuning in and supporting the potty. And I look forward to speaking to you post 100 mile. Wish me luck.